Hello everyone, it's Christine here, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can make this beautiful clamshell book cover or whatever you want to make in a clamshell style using reusable templates from EPP. And I'm going to be doing this as part of my Colour Inspirations journal, which is a project being hosted by the lovely Annie Claxton over at Arty Farty Annie, and I'll link to her. And I've actually just been watching a video from Sarah Homfrey, and she's doing a little stitch along to create a stitch sampler, and I'm actually planning to do that on these pages, which I've already created in some other videos, and I'll link to where I created these. So I think this will actually be a little book that will hold a couple of different projects within it. But the idea for this little session is to show you how to create these clamshells, how they come together, how I've worked out works best for me doing it, and give you the idea of how you can create, if you want to, a little book cover with an extra little sort of anchorer that comes over, because my pages are going to be quite thick by the time they're in the book. So I'm thinking a little something that can come over and be a little closure would be really handy. I haven't yet worked out exactly how it will anchor, but I thought we could at least work on the clamshell component today. So as part of the Colour Inspirations project I've been doing with Annie Claxton, we were asked to start with working with a single colour family. So I have focused on green in these lovely hand-dyed sheets. And then I thought I'd keep it on green on the cover, but as part of this assignment we were asked to pick a shape, so I've picked clamshells, and also to pick a complementary colour to work with your initial colour family. So I've picked pink for mine. So what I have is some pink felt, rather bright, but that's just going to be the base, and the great thing is I can cut around it and it won't be frayy if I decide to do it that way at the end. And then I've got myself just some little squares of fabric. Some of these are just from mini charms, others are just cut off scraps of fabric. And what we're going to be using is these EPP templates. So these ones are 2-inch, get 50 in a pack, and they're from an Australian company, small Australian company, which I love to support. I'm not sponsored by them, I just love their products. EPP, and they're the clamshell shape. So they're laser cut for accurate piecing, patented design. They bend when you need them to. They're strong and durable, reuse again and again. They're transparent for fussy cutting, which means you can position it on the front and see exactly what you'll be cutting out. Heat resistant, so you can use them with your iron. Hard edges, so you're not going to be able to sew through them. And they're whip stitch or ladder stitch friendly. So yeah, they're great. And I got myself different shapes as a little post-Christmas present, and I'm having fun starting to play with those. So let's get started. And I love that I can use them with my Yoo-hoo glue and they just wash clean, or you can just keep using them even with the layer of Yoo-hoo glue on it. So an example of how you can fussy cut is you can position them where you want. So if I just wanted to pick up this sort of area there, then I'd be positioning it like that. And then you want to cut around just with a seam around it, or an allowance really. It's where you're going to be folding them over, so you want to cut it that way. And then it doesn't matter too much how you cut it here, but you're really just following around the shape and then just leaving a flat bottom. Now I keep all these little scraps because I love doing micro mosaicing. So actually let's get them all cut out first, and then that way I won't be having gluey fingers when cutting. So again, we'll just cut around. As I say, it doesn't have to be super precise, because these will be just folded around. You could cut a number of them out at once if you wanted to as well. We can even try that. If I position, although this one might be nice to actually position. So this is an example where I'm positioning it where I want to get these beautiful flowers here. So I hope you're all having a great day. It is a rainy day. We're having a rainy summer here in Australia, or in Melbourne actually, sorry. Other parts I'm sure are having different weather, although there has been flooding events elsewhere. So across the bottom. So yeah, it was really funny. I was watching Sarah Humphrey's video just as I was working on piecing together my green bits of the cover, and I thought, ooh, I haven't done any stitches yet on the pages within it, so it'd be perfect to join Sarah in doing that. So I think the pinks and greens just look really lovely together. I've used them just recently also in my Roxy Journal of Stitchery volume 5, the pouch we're making this month. Now, I don't really want the blue, so I'll position it so I don't get too much of the blue. We do it this way maybe. So yeah, it's amazing how useful these little charm squares are, and it's a great way because you don't have to have too many pink or green fabrics in your stash. You have a variety even just in the little charm packs. And here, what do I want to mostly capture? Let's capture that. Pick up all my little scraps, put them over here to put into a jar. Now we can start to glue our little squares together. Not squares, clamshells. So what I'm going to do is just use my Yoo-hoo glue. You could use a proper English paper piecing glue if you wanted, but Yoo-hoo works a treat for me. So I've just put that just around the curved edge, and then I'm going to just position this with the seam allowance there, and then I'm just going to start at one end, holding really tightly onto my plastic and just folding as I go around so that I get a really nice tight curve. And once you're done, you can just smooth it. I like to then just press it down. And you can also give them a press with your iron as well once you're done if you want to. So again, we're just going to put some glue around the outside. And then we're going to work our way around, keeping a tight hold of it and just folding, because you want it to be a nice smooth curve. You don't want to have any pointy, jutty edges, but that's where the plastic comes in so handy, because it really lets you get really tight in, and it's quite secure when you're holding it. If you're using paper, it'd be a bit bendy. So I actually thought these were going to be quite a complicated shape to do, but once I got started, it's actually, I think, even easier than doing the hexies. At first I thought you'd have to glue all the way around and stitch all the way around, but no. Hard to tell sometimes which is the front and back of the fabric. It's a lovely soft vintage one, this one. I mean, most of my fabrics are vintage apart from the charm squares there. They are newer fabrics. often in vintage style prints because that's what I find I'm kind of attracted to. So yeah, Epiflex is an Australian company, so I know some folks have had some troubles finding them overseas, but there is a US distributor, so I'll include a link in the description, and remind me if I don't, where you can go to the Epiflex website and see whether there is a distributor in your country, or otherwise you can email them. I'm sure they'd be happy to hear from you, and they can let you know how best you can access their products if you're interested. Again, I'm not sponsored, promoted, I pay for all my own products from them, but I just think they're nifty. They make what was otherwise a bit of an intimidating technique really easy, so always happy to share that with you all. Because it's all about us enjoying and being able to try different things and not feeling like it's all too hard, and these make it definitely easy. As I was doing the book cover, actually, I was thinking, wow, I could even do a blanket, but no. I think I'll stick with my small projects, actually. I like those best. As you can see there, if you don't have enough glue, you can just apply it as you're going around. Get rid of your little stray scraps of thread as you go. If you need to, you can just sort of press down, check how it looks once you're done. So these are our little shapey shapes. I've got the iron on behind me, so I'm just going to quickly give those a press on the ironing board. I haven't run away. I will be back in the nearest of moments. I'll just help them to sit nice and flat. Almost lost one on the ironing board. My ironing board, it has a beautiful Australian Waratah and wildflower design, and it's pink with greens, so almost misplaced. So what we'll be ending up with is a design that looks like that. So we really have, this one I might keep out because it is a bit brighter, but I might use in a subsequent line if I need more than that for my little fold over flap. I haven't decided how many I'll do, but probably that will be more than enough to stitch with you. So I'll keep my glue out handy. And so which way do we want these to be done? And I guess we need to think about if they're going to be coming down onto the book or over onto the book, what would we want to be able to sort of see? Which would be a good complement. Quite like that one, although this one's good as well because it almost looks like the sort of the flowers there, and it's a bit more neutral. Maybe we'll go that way. And we've got a big and a small, or we could go to bigger ones, and then we could have our little small ones across there. Maybe we'll do that. Okay, that's our plan of attack. So I'll put those over here. So the great thing with the Epiflex is you can buy this little template separate to the clamshells, and it's a guide so that you can use so you get your clamshells to be straight. Now it's got little pinholes where you can pin it onto your fabric, but because I'm going to be starting it up here, I can also just use my little quilt clips to hold it in place. And then what we're going to do is take our first one, and we're just going to put a bit more glue, not too much, and we will put it, are we about central? No, we're not central here, so I'll just line this up so it's a bit more straight. Not that it really matters too much because we're not going to end up being the whole width of the felt, but let's start central-ish. And then we're going to lay our first one down. And the great thing with these templates is they've actually got a little bending line. So you can bend it and you can find where the line is to fold up with the little line that comes down in the template, the placement template, so that you're getting it exactly lined up. So once that's down, we can then take our template off, and then we'll grab some thread. I'm just going to use a light pinky colour, and we're going to start stitching it. So I'll come through the back and I'll pop out just at the bottom of one of the clamshells, put a stitch in, and then I'll just start putting stitches in, just popping up through the little seam. So I'm actually, from the back, I'm bringing my needle where I can feel my needle going against the plastic, and then just popping it out just where the seam of the fabric is, and then just taking it back in, angled down underneath. You can do them quite a ways apart and it will still work okay. I might just do that one, do an extra stitch in here because I probably jumped forward a smidge too much, getting excited. Oops, just caught on my table. Problem when you have a long thread. I try and get plenty of thread so that I don't have to re-thread lots during the stitching. And the felt's going to give a really nice, easy to stitch through, but a bit more of a solid background. I'll probably back it though with a green piece of fabric, I think, because the interior of the journal will be green. But we can see how it looks. Could always do a scrappy backing with some of my green scraps possibly. Always possibilities. So yeah, on the back you can see we're just jumping around, doing longer stitches on the back, but then just popping up as we go around and just popping out where the seam of the fabric is, and then angling ourselves back in on an angle down. And the Yoo-hoo glue just gives enough hold for you while you're doing your stitching, but as you'll see, it then allows the template to pop out once we've done our stitching. I think in the instructions I was reading on the Epiflex website, it actually said to take the template out before you stitch it, but this method definitely keeps them nice and solid while you're getting them sort of stitched down and getting that curve holding on them. So I've got round to the other edge, and I'll put a final stitch down the bottom. The plastic actually ends at that point, so I am going to though just put one more little stitch down here to hold it, even though when we do the clamshells we don't see that, and that will actually get stitched over anyway, but just to keep it nice and secure. So then I'll come back into the interior of my felt and just tie off, or you could leave your thread ready for your next one. I might try doing that actually, because I think it should be okay. Now, what I like to do here is just use my finger to go around here and loosen the glue at the top. And then I usually find it easier, like I do with my hexies, to use an old wooden knitting needle, and I'm just going around and loosening the underlayer underneath the plastic template. So I'm just using my knitting needle just to pull the slightly glued fabric down so that it releases off the template. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but I'm just basically getting it detached, and then the template will come out beautifully, and your little clamshell will be there as well. So, sorry, my needle managed to unthread itself, so let's just rethread it so I don't lose it. Now comes the next step in the process, and you put your template over the top of your clamshell. So you're actually going to line up this line here with the top of your clamshell, like that. So I wonder, yeah, I reckon I can probably do that actually, and then I can just use my little clippy technique for that. Just want to get it nice and straight. Should still work okay, I think. Actually, no, maybe I might pop it on at the ends. Actually, I'll line it up and then pop these little clips on at the ends, because they will hold there anyway. That's pretty good, I think. And so what was going to be my next one? I was going to use the two larger florals, wasn't I? So again, just putting a bit of glue just around, and I don't even need that much. And then finding where the bend is and lining that bendy bit up with the top. And then you're just positioning your little curved clamshell within this outline that you've got from the little ruler or marker or whatever you want to call it, the little guide template. And then again, and just as you do it, just make sure your template's sitting where you want it. You can even just be holding it. Again, working out where my little top is. Because it's sometimes hard with the clamshells. If you didn't have that ability to sort of bend them and see where the marker was, it would be hard to tell because you're not cutting exactly against them, as it were. So that's that done. And now we can continue stitching on. So I will take my needle over to here, I think. Just pop myself out here. Put our first stitch in. I'll just work around just to this edge, and then I'll come back. Or actually I could leave the thread there and use my other needle. I've got two threaded needles just for ease of And the other great thing about that ruler guide is it's got these little markings on it, so you can actually do borrow style or sashiko style stitching on it, like the Japanese sort of decorative stitching. So it's got a little floral design. Which would be particularly effective on plain coloured fabrics. And again, as you go, if you're worried that your pieces have shifted at all, you can just line up your template and see how they are. But yep, I can tell that they're sitting perfectly well there. Sorry, I just didn't want to check that. Yep, they're both still exactly in position. Another little stitch down here. Then I might actually, normally I don't, but just because I need to now get back to the other side, I can actually just put some little stitches. Actually, no, that will make it hard to get the template out. I won't do that. There's a reason I don't normally do that, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to slide the template out easily. What have I done let's just take that little knot off the needle. Don't you hate when you get a little knot right where the eye of the needle is? It's frustrating. Okay, let's just take that stitch out at the back because that was going to make it extra difficult to get the template out. And we will just tie it off at this end here, and then we can continue to do the rest of it. Again, you can just tie off after each row, which might be easier because then you can start at the other end and just go the whole way through. Okay, tie a little knot in our thread, and we can come around from over where we came down. So I've already stitched that section there, so we're just going to go around the rest of the tops of the shapes, and then we'll pop those templates out. But hopefully this is giving you a good flavour of how you can do this technique. And even if you were using papers, you could do it as well. You wouldn't have the guide, so it does make it a little trickier for the positioning. But I love that this is just, you can just add as you go. But what you do have to remember with these shapes is you'll always be either folding over like I did with the book, or taking cutting off your sort of outer edge where you've just got the sort of the scrappy edges of the clamshells. I'll show you what I mean once we've done the third row here. And obviously you don't have to do this sort of graduating out 1, 2, 3 design. You can do whatever design you want. I just think this is, a nice little one for a book cover or a flap. Could do beautiful fish with this, like scales. So now I'll just pop up this way and out of these ones over here. So always just angling out just out of the seam, and then angling your needle back in underneath. Totally unrelated to stitching, I was listening on the radio driving back here yesterday, and there was the funniest story. I don't know who it was presenting, but they were talking about different habits of sea creatures. And apparently, I don't know if it's a particular breed of dolphin, but it's the males of the species that will go down to the seafloor and work very hard to detach a reasonably sized piece of sponge off the seafloor or off the rocks. They then come up to the surface where the ladies are, the lady dolphins, and they proceed to float the sponge on the surface and bring their head up under the sponge, have the sponge on their head, and then shape themselves into the shape of a banana sort of floating in the water, and basically hang around like that for the ladies to admire. So it's a bit of a dolphin impressing the ladies technique, but the funniest thing is that apparently the ladies dolphins aren't very impressed at all, and generally just swim off when the males are doing this palaver. So I thought that was great. Because I was also reading, male grooming is going up in huge popularity apparently, so maybe it's just a form of the male dolphins. Who knows? Who knows how these things develop? I thought that was funny. And then there's crabs that do a similar technique where they attach a sponge or a growing bit of sort of seaweed to their shells, and it continues to grow there, but that's for camouflage, so that's for survival. Whereas the dolphins, that sounds like that's for humour or trying to woo the ladies, but unsuccessfully. As the presenter said, you'd think that evolution would kind of take care of that, but who knows. But it did make me laugh. I was also listening, I think on that same trip there was again, forgotten his name, he might be Timothy Jarvis maybe, who's a renowned sort of explorer, has made these amazing treks and adventures, but also heavily into environmental endeavours. And he was, sort of talking about one of his philosophies is sort of, the way he deals with stress and the worries and big problems in the world, whether it be climate change or problems and challenges in life, is just to focus on the things that are within his control. Even for an expedition, that's the approach he takes. So I thought that was a good little life tip, because we can tend to worry about things. I say we, I'm really meaning me. But maybe you do too, so maybe that gives you something. So again, I'm going to use my finger to loosen. So I'm just running it between where the template and the fabric is, and you can see it because it pops away from the surface. So again, just running my finger around. You can use the knitting needle for that, but the finger works quite well. For this one, the knitting needle does just help because it is a little bit more glued and it's just a thin strip of fabric, so it just helps to be able to get in and loosen that off. Do the same on this side. Sometimes it pops off really easy. It probably just depends a bit on the fabric as well. And just slides out. And as you can see, it's got a bit of glue debris. I actually leave that on. I don't even bother washing mine between uses. I just leave it on and use it again. If it got really gummed up, that's when I'd probably change it, give it a wash and change it over. So we're going to do the same technique. We're going to line up where the two are, like that. Hard to see because my camera is sort of sitting in my way. It's pretty good like that, I think. Stop about there. And then we're going to lay our next layer. So I think I'll do this one at this edge. Again, I won't even bother clipping these ones down. I'll just, so again, let's line up our middle line with the middle. Put our light coloured one in the, again, let's just, this one. So again, you want just enough glue just to hold them in place. And you can remove, oops, let's just check that's still AOKO. I think that is. Put the cap on my glue. I've got my little reusable face washer with just a bit of moisture on it to get rid of any of the gluiness. Grab my other threaded needle and we can start over this side. So I'll just pop up and pop a stitch in at very end here. And I'm just going to come around. I don't think I managed to bang the camera then, but I don't think I actually came up through the seam. So I'm just going to catch the edge there. I'm just going to double check that I haven't gone crooked and dislodged that in the process. Just make sure we're still sitting where we need to. Yeah, that's pretty good. Just checking at the back where I'd got round to with my stitches. Wanting to make sure I am actually catching my fabric. If you get round and you find you haven't, it's okay, because you can sort of work back and just add some stitches at the end. But yeah, no, I definitely am catching. It's hard because you're just popping out of that little seam, so sometimes it can be a bit tricky to see. I hope you're having a great weekend of crafting. And I assume I'll be sharing this video later this evening. It's Saturday here, so I'll probably go up either Saturday night or Sunday morning here. But that's then sort of the start of your... How does it work? Yes. No, that's like your Saturday night if you're in the UK. So yeah, definitely check out Annie Claxton's Colour Inspirations project. It's giving me lots of lovely launching prompts like this one that got me to get my clamshells out and start using them. It's fun when you can do other projects, have prompts. It kind of just gets you going, doesn't it? I'm always stitching, but it's just nice to have that thing that you're doing where you might be doing something totally different from other people, but you are all working on a single theme or project or idea or concept. It's just great to support the others that are putting effort into coming up with these little projects. There's so many around, so I'm kind of glad that I haven't launched any project this year, because I'm enjoying just taking part in other people's. And the second half of last year was very busy with the stitch along to do the dictionary of stitches, which, as I've said before, I still need to put that together. Can't work out whether it's actually turning cold today or going humid again, because I'm getting quite warm, but it could be that I have the door to the craft room closed, the window closed, and I've got the lights on and the iron on behind me, so that might be having something to do with it. Now we've just accidentally popped off our third piece along, but that's okay, we'll attach it when we get to that piece. And we just keep working our way around. Just lay it flat periodically so you don't get sort of puffiness. Unless you want puffiness, then by all means, go puffy. sort of managed to unthread ourselves. That's where you can see the little pattern on the back as we stitch around. Okay. Keeping on, keeping on. So I'll show you at the end how I wrapped the book cover, the piece of fabric that I'd worked my clamshells on, over a piece of felt to form the book cover, because you want your cover to have a bit of sort of stability, bit of bulk to it, structure to it, I guess. And then I'll be putting a backing piece on it as well. I just thought I'd wait to see if I wanted to do any stitching into it, because I was contemplating maybe some pink stitching, but now that I think I've got this little pink coordinating piece, I'm happy with that as my little complementary colour piece, and I'll leave the journal itself green. So this one had fallen off in the process, so as easy as repositioning our guide like that. And finding our little foldy mark there. Sticking it down a bit better this time. And then continuing our way around. And I better just put the top on my glue before I knock it over onto my mat, or who knows what I'll do. Oops. Great thing, as I say, is that you can't possibly go through the plastic, so it is a very good thing. Now I've got glue sticking to my fingers, so I'll just wipe my fingers off. And I will put another little stitch down here just to hold these two. So I just love how sort of, yeah, scrappy these look, in the sense of all the different fabrics together. And it is a great way for little scraps to yeah, to be honoured, find another life. Or bits of fabric that you want to kind of keep a memory of, even if you're using them for something else. Something that you might not be keeping yourself, gifting away, and you want to just keep a little memory of the fabric. And as I say, these clamshells could make all sorts of different things. You don't have to make a book cover out of them. You can make a little placemat. I'm sure I'll be finding many uses. They almost look like the little tops of Easter eggs, so I'm thinking some Easter crafting as well. And if you did it in these beautiful pinks and things, they would look lovely. I'm assuming you can also sort of have them come down like in a diamond shape. You just have to work out how you do the sort of the join across the middle. Okay. So let's tie that off. Put our needle back over there, our scrap over there, get our finger, we loosen around. Let's loosen all of these first. And then we'll use our knitting needle just to loosen the back bits of fabric. I usually just start at one end and get one end separated, and then it usually goes pretty easily. Kind of see when it's all done. Sometimes the fabric, because it's got the glue on it, will just bunch up a little bit underneath, so it's just clearing a little bunching there. That one came away really easily. And because where they're overlapping, you've actually got two layers of fabric that can kind of become glued to each other. Another one out. Yeah, you just want to make sure you are removing all your templates before you go to the next layer. So what I am thinking we will end up with, let me just do this for now, even though I think I'll probably cut fully around them, is we will have our little book like that, and then we'll have our little wrap coming over, and possibly just with a little tie, and I might even put a green tie on, or a pink tie possibly, but I'll continue this over a little bit more, because what you need to do when you create, if you are doing a cover like this with a piece of felt, is you're actually needing to fold over these little raw edges, as it were, at your end and at your sides. So you're actually going to only end up with the half of the ones at the outermost edge. So if I was to be doing that here, but I think I'll go out at least to 5 across, is that I would need to be folding it over to about there, similar to what you can see here. So you'd end up with a little wrap that is like that. So that could be okay. That is actually probably an okay thickness if I am just having it as a wrap as opposed to... Yeah, so I might actually just continue down and do the 3 a bit further along, so that can form a wrap. And what I do with the felt is I cut it down to the size, whatever size I want it to be. I usually fold all the edges in first and then work it out. I don't tend to use my ruler. I do it a little bit more by eye, but it ends up pretty even, really. That's all lining up nicely. And I will do some stitches, because at the moment I've just used my Yoo-hoo glue to fold it over. I'll just do some stitches to make sure these little ends are being drawn in and not fraying at all. But yeah, it's a really lovely little technique. I hope you enjoyed seeing it. Yeah, as I say, use your own templates if you want. I'm sure you can download clamshell templates off the internet, and then you could even work out your own little guide system as well, or you might be able to download a little printable guide, who knows. But otherwise, if you want to investigate Epiflex, I'll include a link below this. But again, I'm not sponsored, just sharing the love and sharing the tools that I use for my creating. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to putting together this little book of stitcheries and joining in Sarah Humphrey's little stitch along as well. I think it goes up that way because we've got the hearts. Yeah, and this could be a great little place to do that, because I've got all my greeny threads looked out, so I can do my little stitch along in this as well, but could potentially continue to use this little sketchbook as well as part of the colour inspirations, or create some other little books. It's a nice little size to work in, I think. And yeah, it feels really lovely. You could also use this for the trifold pouch that we've got as a current project from Roxy's Journal of Stitchery. So it would make a great trifold pouch also. So I'll continue on. I think I'll just, keep, I'll probably go out to the 4 and then, 4 and then 3 and then 4 and 3 going along. That will just give me a little bit of extra width. So it will end up essentially about that width, which will be a nice little wrap. I think I don't want my wrap to be as big as the actual cover. So I'll see where that goes. I'll share that in my next colour inspirations video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.